listening to DBS Radio. Very interesting discussion a short while ago. World Rivers Day, the annual observance in the month of September, ahead of the actual day itself. We are applying a series of discussions. Very interesting this morning with Redemptorist Praise Father Franklin Coffey and Dr. Carla Ashby. But it's time now for another discussion. It's the third Thursday of the month, and every third Thursday we have the Dominica Social Security Let's Talk Social Security. So we're going to do that this morning. There's a lot that we want to cover. I see I have 3 guests in studio. We also want to go through basic information as it pertains to the Dominica Social Security. So what we will do really is take you back to how the program started. We'll have a little discussion on this, why it started, what necessitated the move for Social Security as well, what was in place before. We want to look at the program in its present form, registration, payments of contribution, coverage for the self-employed, and more. So we will operate like this. It's the first program, but it's not the first program. Of course, Social Security has been on for many, many years with DBS Radio. But it is always important to revisit topics of the past. You may want clarity or further explanation on a particular subject, how the DSS works essentially. Secure yourself, secure your family, register with the Social Security. So we are ready to talk security, the key to financial security. Let's go to Studio 2 right now, the Felix Henderson studio, and welcome our guests. Good morning, Madam. It's a pleasure to have you on. You have not been on for a while, though.
No,
but we have had good programs, even in your absence.
Yes, of course, sure. Yes, good morning, Ivona.
Just introduce yourself again.
Yeah. Janice Jean-Jacques Thomas, the Director of the Dominica Social Security. It's been a while, but I'm pleased to be here.
Right, it's a pleasure to have you. I'm starting with the ladies first, so we'll have the gentleman after. Good morning.
Good morning, Ivona.
Tell us who you are. Of course, I know, but just tell us.
Yes, definitely. My name is Kamasha Lloyd, Marketing and Communications Officer at the Dominica Social Security. And as usual, it is our pleasure to be here to educate the listeners about the Social Security program.
Okay, and you brought with you a gentleman as well.
Yes,
good morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning, Ivona. My name is Bernard Henry, Compliance Manager at Dominica Social Security. This is not my first time here, but I haven't been here for quite a number of years now, and it's a pleasure to be back after a long time.
Okay, it's a pleasure to welcome you back. Your voice is like I've heard it before, not on just on radio. I'm not sure. I'm just trying to, create that connection. But it sounds that voice. Some voices are so distinct that whenever you hear it, whether it's for years, apart, you just recognize. But it's a pleasure to have you on as well.
Thank you so much.
Don't become a stranger. It's a while you have not been on radio, as you say, with that
correct.
program. But it's nice to have you on.
Thank you.
Okay. Mrs. Janice Jean-Jacques Thomas, what's happening in recent days, in recent weeks for the Dominica Social Security? Give us a briefing.
Well, we continue to meet the needs of our insured population, and we have had a bit of a challenge with our I will start by saying that we've had a bit of a challenge with our payment of our short-term benefits, where you'll see on social media where people are complaining about the efficiency with which they are paid, and we are working to get over this bump. The hurdle has been because we are changing systems, and as a result of that we developed a backlog. And just earlier this week it was brought to my attention that this backlog is not necessarily what is created by us, in that some employers hold the claims for months before sending them to us. So somebody might be complaining that they claim for months and I haven't been paid, whereas the employer may be guilty of having held that claim for months before submitting it to Social Security. We are, however, strategizing to get over that, where we meet the current, pay the current ones immediately, and also work towards the backlog. So in the end, they will meet up. So this is where the most challenging aspect of our operations at this time, where we are seeking to become more current with the payment of our short-term benefits. Our long-term benefits continue to be paid on time. So our monthly paid pensioners, their pensions have already been sent to their accounts. And for this week is a payment week for both monthly and fortnightly paid. And both of them have, both sets of payments have already gone out. Recently, I was downstairs and there was a monthly paid pensioner there who was a bit upset that we were sending his money to his account too early. Yeah, so
Interesting.
he obviously had problem controlling the way he accessed his money, and his complaint was that we're sending the money too early. So that's just to show you how well we do it. We pay people on time. So we just want to continue to ask the persons who are awaiting their short-term claims that we are getting on top of it, and that backlog will be a thing of the past in the not too distant future. So that's the most challenging thing that is going on right now. And you will see one of the areas we want to speak about is about the self-employed persons. Increasingly, we are seeing that self-employed persons who fail to pay contributions while they have the chance, they are losing out. They get sick, they cannot receive any benefits because they haven't been paying. They become pensionable, and some of them they even qualify for a grant, although you just need 1 year's payment to get a grant. So that is why I think it is important that we send out a call to the self-employed persons to ask them to come on board. And some of them are on board because they register, but they register and they do not pass back and pay their contributions. So that is why we want to sound the call and ask the self-employed persons to honor the commitment to yourself. It's not even a commitment to Social Security, no? It's a commitment to yourself to come and pay your contributions, regularize your status so that you can qualify for the benefits that are available under the Dominica Social Security. And I think one of our future programs, we must have some testimonials, direct testimonials from some of our pensioners who can tell you how happy they are to receive the benefits that they are receiving from the Dominica Social Security. Because for many of them, it is all they receive, and they are pleased for it. They are pleased that they made the sacrifice. And even, let's say, for public officers, when Social Security just started, not even Social Security, sorry, when National Provident Fund was in existence, the union at the time that was covering, say, public officers, made sure that they didn't pay, because at the time the National Provident Fund was just for pensions. And so the public officers, because they were entitled to a pension from the employer, they and a few other bigger employers, they did not pay contributions to the National Provident Fund. And I always remember at least this one guy who came back when he claimed his pension. He came back, so then when Social Security started, he paid towards Social Security. But had he contributed on the National Provident Fund, his pension would have been a bigger pension. And at that point, he was expressing regret. Because at that time, all you know is that they were going to take it from your money. And of course, there was resistance. But these people later on realized that it would have been to their greater benefit had they paid. And so I'm seeing that self-employed persons have had the opportunity to pay, and many of them are still refusing to pay. So that is an area where we want to see a greater level of coverage, not just for Social Security, but for the self-employed persons themselves, that they can qualify for benefits later.
You mentioned the National Provident Fund, and I just want to go there a little, because we now have the Dominica Social Security. We started with this fund back in the day, and look at where we are now with this robust Social Security program. I want to bring you in, gentlemen from the Dominica Social Security. Just give us you started there long ago, as you mentioned. You have been at Social Security for many years now. Let us look at when it started. When you enter the Dominica Social Security, of course, the knowledge that there was a Provident Fund to where we are now. What are maybe just a few key highlights that you can draw to our attention?
Okay, I'd like to begin, but there's a very obscure book in the Bible, which many people have not heard about. It's called the Book of Hosea. And Hosea chapter 6 verse 4 makes a statement. It says that I have rejected you because of lack of knowledge. I've rejected you. Okay, and he's saying that basically God is rejecting people because God is rejecting people because of the fact that they have they refuse to accept knowledge, or they refuse to educate themselves. And the second part of the verse says that because you have refused knowledge, I also will reject you. And that is saying basically that God holds each and every one of us responsible for educating ourselves. And if we do not educate ourselves, we, not him, are responsible for any deficiency or any lack or consequences that may befall us, right? And that is very important to me because as far as I'm concerned, as far as the law is concerned, it's very easy to qualify for Social Security benefit. And as you indicated, I've been at Social Security for about 2 generations right now. And there are many people, I can tell you, who have failed to qualify for benefit for the simple reason that they did not do what they were required to do. Under the National Provident Fund program, persons were required to just contribute a meager, I think, was it 3% of their income to the National Provident Fund? Very little bit, very small amount of money. But the only benefits that they qualified for at the time was what is called a grant, a lump sum amount, which was given to them when they attained the age of retirement. Now, obviously, that was not appropriate, was not adequate or sufficient for them. For the simple reason that, I mean, if upon the attainment of a certain age, I give you, say, $10,000, $15,000, it's a nice thing, you have $10,000, $15,000 in your hand, but the question is, how long is that going to last you? Okay? It's only going to last, as soon as you receive money, and I mean, that is how human beings operate. As soon as you receive a big money, you think of things, you want a fridge, you want a new stove, you want a new settee, you want to set up yourself a brand new TV, 40 inches, 60 inches TV, and so forth. And in a heartbeat, the entire amount of money that you had disappears. You know what I mean? So that was what the National Provident Fund was all about. You contribute to that program, and you receive a grant at the end of the age of retirement. Under the Social Security program, it's not that way, in the sense that once you qualify for benefits, Social Security is duty bound to continue paying you a pension for the rest of your life. Okay? And just this morning I was watching a simple example where there was a lady from down south who contributed just $267 to the Social Security program. $267. Part of that one that was under the National Provident Fund, and the rest was under the Social Security program. And when I looked at the amount of money she had gotten, by the time the last time that I checked her record, she had already received $67,000. Okay, unfortunately she died not too long ago. She died, but for contributing a meager $267, she had already $207. She had already $207. Sorry, she had received $67,000, and she also received a funeral grant of $3,000 at the time. Okay, so that shows that under the National Provident Fund, she'd have just received a little bit of money. But under the Social Security program, once you qualify for an age pension, the amount of money that you receive is not limited to what you paid. Social Security is obligated to pay your pension and to continue doing so for the rest of your life. And of course, in addition to age pension, there are several other pensions that people may qualify for. But I guess we'll speak about those as we go on in the program.
Commercial Lloyd, do you get the feeling that not enough people are embracing the Social Security program? I mean, I listened to Mrs. Janice Jajak Thomas a while ago, and she was saying that they are self-employed, and many self-employed persons who fail to pay contributions while they are able to, but they are not doing it. So in a nutshell, just give us, a sense of what you feel from since you have been at the Dominica Social Security in reference to people embracing the program.
Yes, Ivona, that is so true. A lot of people, they are aware of the importance of Social Security, but they fail to see how relevant it is to them at the current moment. So if I take an example of the average young person who probably sees a deduction coming from their salary for Social Security, they may not understand, but why am I paying that deduction? What is in it for me? What is that all about? They just know that an amount is coming out from their pay for Social Security. And it may look to them like something far into the future, because most people may think of Social Security as it relates to a pension when they attain a certain age, when they retire from work, when they can no longer work. But for Social Security, the program, it covers us basically, as we would like to say, from the cradle to the grave. So at every aspect in your life, something can happen to you whereby you can benefit from Social Security. And I will go further by saying, take for example, you're working, you are not sure when illness is going to befall you. Social Security is there. We provide a benefit for that for you once you're a contributor to the program and you meet the qualifying conditions. If you are a woman who may get pregnant at a certain time and you have to stay away from work to take care of your baby, there is a benefit for that also, Ivona. If you are at work, you may get injured on the job or contract some illness that is work-related. At any time, we do not know when that is going to happen to us. But if in case that happens to you, there is also a benefit, a suite of benefits that we have for that. And later down in life, when you can no longer earn income, you have to retire from work, we have a benefit for that also. If you are no longer able to work because of a disability, you may contract some illness or get disabled on the job or something like that. There is a benefit for that, Ivona. And even after your death, upon your death, if you leave dependents behind, they may qualify to receive a benefit from Social Security, in addition to a funeral grant that we pay to assist with your burial. So there is a benefit to be had at any point in your life once you're contributing to the Social Security program. So while persons tend to look at it as something far into the future, Social Security is relevant to you now in the present moment while you are at work and in the prime of your youth. For the self-employed person, it's even more important, Ivona, because most of them are the main breadwinners for their families, and they have to bring the income. If these people are unable to work or earn income, Ivona, their family suffers. And so if they take upon the importance of Social Security and realize that they too need to make their contributions to Social Security, not just for themselves, but for their families, so if in the event something happens to them, their family can benefit. They will realize that it is important for them to make those contributions now while they are able to do that.
Social Security, designed to ensure the economic security and well-being of the citizens of this country. Let's listen to Dice and we'll continue with the discussion on the Dominica Social Security. Let's listen to Dice now.
Secure yourself, secure your family. Register with Social Security. Make sure your employers pay, cause some of them do melee. Make sure they pay your Social Security. Secure your age pension when you're old. Invalidity pension when health has left you cold. Survivor's pension, secure for your spouse and your children. Life and health, above unpredictable. Don't take risk, you can't afford to gamble. Secure yourself with Social Security. I said that. Social Security, it good, you know.
Okay, so let's go through the registration process at this time. I know we have discussed this on past programs, but I want to bring this in again. We have a lot of young people starting, work, and they may not be sure about, how they register with the Dominica Social Security. Take us through the registration process. Tell us what it entails. And at what point do you have to visit, for your pictorial ID, and things like that.
Okay, so Ivona, for the Social Security program, to become covered under the program, you need to be at least of the age of 16. So children who are leaving school right now, some of them may be entering the world of work or some of them may go on to further their education. But if they were to get a job today or tomorrow and they are at least the age of 16, one of the key requirements is for them to register with the Social Security. And how do they do that? There is a registration form that we have, application for registration as an employee form. So if you get a job, your employer needs to send you to Social Security if you do not yet have a Social Security card to get registered. You complete that form. There are sections on the form that the employee has to complete, and the employer also has to complete some sections of that form. They will return that form to the individual who will take that form to Social Security along with their original birth certificate. That is the certificate that you would get from the registry. not from the priest, from the registry. So your original copy of your birth certificate, you come to Social Security with that, along with a form of ID. So if, for example, you already possess a passport or a driver's license, that will suffice as your ID. If you do not have a form of ID, you need to have a photograph taken, as you would do for your passport, and have someone endorse at the back of the photograph stating that it is indeed you who are in that photograph. You will take that along to Social Security to get registered. We will register you, and upon registration, you will be provided with a Social Security number and a Social Security card. And that number has to be provided to your employer to enable them to begin to make contribution deductions on your behalf to the Social Security. For the self-employed person, the process is a bit slightly different, Ivona, in that the self-employed person do not have an employer. They are their own boss, they're their own employer. So the self-employed person is required to also complete a form, but they need to present themselves at the office to have a discussion, basically like an interview with one of our officers, to ascertain from them what their earnings are, because their earnings may fluctuate depending on the type of business that they are in. So they would come to the office, have a discussion with us, let us know when things are very good, how much do they normally earn, when things are slow, how much do they earn. That kind of discussion will happen, and based on that we will assess them for their contribution payments. So we'll look at the earnings from the previous year's earnings that they have made, and then we will assess it and give them the amount that they're supposed to pay. The rate of contribution for self-employed persons is 13.50% of their assessed earnings. So whatever it is that they make, 14.50% of that, and it is payable on a quarterly basis. So the contribution amount will be broken down in quarterly phases for them, which is every 3 months, and they need to come into Social Security to have that done. Those who are already self-employed, every year they need to come in and reassess, have a reassessment done, because their circumstances may have changed from the previous year to the current year that we are in. So every year they would have to come and have a reassessment done, and because the rates of contribution will also change, they will need to visit our office on a yearly basis.
Very, very interesting. Well said. You want to add something?
Yes, I just
Yes,
want to
go ahead.
That in the case of employees, the law requires that from the time they start working, they're required to ensure that they're registered with Social Security. Okay, so a person might start, if a person is has already been registered and he takes up a job with an employer, he's required to present his Social Security card to his employer. If on the other hand he was never registered, the law requires that he immediately gets registered, okay, by going through the process that Mrs. Lloyd described. And that is very important, because a person might start to work, and one of the benefits that Social Security pays is what is called employment injury benefit. And if a person commences work and he gets injured on that job, even if he hasn't paid a single cent to Social Security, the Social Security will still pay him what is called employment injury benefit. On the other hand, if he was never registered, he will not qualify for that benefit. So it is very critical, very important that he gets registered from the get-go, from the time he starts working.
Mention the employment injury benefits. So let me bring in the executive director to talk about as well the various programs that are offered at the Dominica Social Security.
Okay, so the benefits we offer fall into 3 different categories, where we have the short-term benefits that are payable while a person is in employment. So sickness, where you have to abstain from work because you are ill and you have been issued with a medical certificate certifying you to be unable to work for a certain period. And then we have the maternity, and then we pay the sickness benefit at 60% of your insurable earnings. Then we have the maternity benefit, which is payable to a woman who has to abstain from work for the purposes of having a child. Maternity benefit is payable for 12 weeks, and a minimum of 3 weeks before to a maximum of 6 weeks before your expected date of confinement, and between 6 and 9 weeks after. So a total of 12 weeks, a woman can qualify for maternity benefit. Upon confinement, there's also a maternity grant that is payable, and the grant payable is $1,000 per child. And so for persons with multiple births, you could get $2,000 if you have twins. If it's triplets, $3,000. And the only caveat with the grant, the maternity grant, is where the confinement took place at the hospital. We have to ensure that you have in fact settled your bill at the hospital. So where that hasn't been done, we will pay the amount due to the hospital, and if there's any balance, then you will get the remainder of that.
And that's periodical payments for this, right?
No, the maternity grant is a one-time payment of $1,000.
Okay.
But the maternity benefit
mhm.
is payable over a 12-week period.
Okay.
To the woman, because she has to abstain from work for the purpose of having a child.
Okay. So during pregnancy and post-birth?
Yes.
Okay.
So up to 3 weeks before, because by medically they said a woman should stop work at least the minimum 3 weeks before the expected date of confinement. And note that it's an expected date, it's not exact, an expected date of confinement, and up to stay home after up to 9 weeks after having given birth to the baby, so a total of 12 weeks. But if the woman, for instance, is not faring too well, the doctor can advise that she stop work for as much as 6 weeks before the expected date. And in that case, you realize for the maternity benefit purposes, there's another 6 weeks after the confinement. However, if in the opinion of the doctor, the woman needs more time, the doctor can always issue that woman with additional sick leave after that 6 weeks post confinement is concerned. So these are the short-term benefits. And yes, and then the next class is employment injury, which is payable to somebody who is in employment. So you are at work and you contracted a disease on the job, or you suffered an accident on the job, an injury. So employment injury, we like to put it in a separate class. Although it is similar to the short-term benefits, we put it in a similar class because of one advantage of the advantage, I call it, of the employment injury is even once you are registered and your employer is an employer who is paying contributions to Social Security, even if no contributions, so you just went to work today, you registered and you started working this week, and you got injured on the job, you will qualify for employment injury. Whereas for sickness and maternity, you will have had to contribute for a specific period to qualify. For employment injury, that's not the case. If on the first day of work you get injured on the job, a benefit is payable to you. So employment injury, we have a whole suite of benefits for employment injury. So we have the one that is similar to sickness benefit. For the time you have to abstain from work, you get 60% of your insurable earnings. And where that injury lasts for more than the 6 months, after that you can get what is called disablement benefit as a result of the whatever accident you suffered. Where there are medical expenses, we can pay you medical expenses up to the maximum, the ceiling contributions, which currently is $7,000. If the person dies as a result, death benefit arises from that same employment injury, where we pay your survivors a death benefit. So the employment injury suite of benefits is one we like to classify separately because of the difference in the other short-term benefits. Yeah. Then we have our long-term benefits, and that is where more than 90% of our benefit expenses go to. We have the age benefit, which is basically the final benefit that is paid. Age, so you contribute for at least 10 years, and you can qualify for an age benefit, which is paid from a minimum of 30%. After 10 years, as little as 10 years of contributions, you get 30% of your average insurable earnings as your pension, and then it can grow up to a maximum of 60%. So a minimum of 30% to a maximum of 60% a person can qualify for as their age benefit, and it is payable in full from you attain your pensionable age to up to the day before you die. Up to the day you die. Age benefit is payable. For survivors benefit is payable where somebody had contributed for at least 3 years and the person died, and left behind approved dependents. And I say approved
All right,
because
so what's
the
what?
law stipulates who are your dependents. Your children under the age of 21. If you have no children, a parent or a grandparent who is above the age of 65, and then a spouse. And I want to make a point, because when Mrs. Lloyd was speaking earlier, she was talking about Social Security being involved. So you don't think it's just for when you're old. It is relevant for all stages of your life. Because up to this week, when I was going through the benefit payments, I'm seeing that the survivor's benefit is now being paid, increasingly being paid, on account of persons who are much younger.
What does that say?
So much younger, persons who are much younger are dying from accidents. Accidents or violent deaths. And they leave behind survivors who must be paid survivors benefit. I was noticing it just earlier this week, where I'm seeing, when I see a new claim for survivors, I watch the person's date of birth, and I'm seeing that these people are much younger. So that is why, as Mrs. Lloyd said, and I want to emphasize that point, that Social Security is relevant to you at all stages of life. Don't think it's just for when you reach age 65, because you die and you leave behind dependents, and these people, Social Security will take care of them. So that is the survivor's benefit. And even in cases where a person may have received age benefit for 30 years, some persons, because we do have an increasing number of persons who are 90 in their 90s receiving an age pension. And if that person who die and leave behind a spouse, that spouse would in fact qualify for survivors pension even after we had paid that person, the dead person, for 30 years. So that just says the beauty of Social Security. And I always like to tell people that there is no cancel stamp at Social Security. In the days when passbooks were more common at the financial institutions, people would come with their passbook where they show in the bank, so they withdraw everything they had in the bank and they stamp cancel on every page. So don't come back, because at Social Security it's not like that.
Your visa can be cancelled.
Yes.
The stamp
We have
is
no
there.
cancel stamp as far as it paying off your benefits. Once you start getting your age pension, it is payable until you die. You die and you're left behind dependents, approved dependents. They will continue to receive their benefit as long as they qualify to receive that benefit. And that is the beauty of Social Security. What you receive is not limited to what you put into the program. Yes? Invalidity. So you contributed and you become unable to work because of some illness. Social Security, once you had contributed for at least a minimum of 3 years, Social Security pays you an invalidity pension. So once you are declared incapable of working because of some mental or physical disability, you continue to receive benefit for as long as you are invalidity benefit, for as long as you are in that condition situation. Okay, so that's another one of the long-term benefits that we pay, and it can be paid for as long, even sometimes up to your death. If you die, it can transition into an age pension if you never recover from whatever disease it is, illness. And then we have a funeral grant that is paid once you had contributed for at least 1 year, 50 weeks of contributions. You qualify for a funeral grant, which at the moment is $3,400, where you are an insured person. And we have also grants payable to an uninsured spouse. So you were contributed, but your wife or your husband never contributed. There's a grant that is payable, $2,800, and where you are a dependent child, 832, and we also pay where you have a dependent child who has died. The grant payable is $1,416. So all these benefits are payable from your contributions to Social Security, and we do not keep an account strictly for what we have paid you to say whether you got back all what you paid in. So let us stop now. Your benefits continue to be paid as long as you qualify, you satisfy the conditions for the benefits.
And the amazing thing, Ivone, is that it's so very easy to qualify for Social Security benefit, as the director was saying. Because while she was speaking, something I remembered, there's somebody I know very well who died in a motorcycle accident. And when he died, he left behind his girlfriend or his fiancée and 5 children. And unfortunately, because if he had only contributed for 3 years, 150, a minimum of 150 credits, which is equivalent to paying for 3 years. If he had only contributed for 3 years, we would have paid, Social Security would have paid a pension to each child until he reaches the age of, potentially until he reaches the age of 21. And this lady would have received a survivor's pension, his fiancée, because they were living together for some time. She would have received a survivor's pension for, until the last child attained the age of 21. Mm-hmm. If when a person dies, their spouse is already 50 years, 50 years old, we pay that spouse a pension for the rest of their life. The other thing we should have mentioned with regards to employment injury benefit, there's also a phenomenon in the social in the employment injury program where if a person loses a faculty, Social Security pays them a certain amount of money based on each faculty. A faculty, of course, would be a member of your body. So a pinky finger, a ring finger, a middle finger, index finger, thumb, that's a faculty. A hand, your hand up to your wrist and below is a faculty. Your up to your elbow is another faculty. An eye is a faculty, and so forth. A leg, toes, and so forth. So there's a value. Social Security puts a value on each faculty of your body. And if in the course of employment you lose a faculty, Social Security pays you a lump sum grant for each such faculty that you happen to lose under the employment injury program. So that is the reason why it is very important that as soon as a person starts working, that they get registered in the Social Security program. Because if you are not registered and you lose a faculty or you get injured in the job, Social Security will not be able to pay you because you are only deemed covered from the date that you will get registered.
Remember, secure yourself, secure your family, get registered in the Social Security. You may want to call for clarification of something that was said earlier, or you may have your own questions. Let's go to the telephone. We have someone on the line. Hello.
Good morning. Good edification.
Yes, thank you.
Good morning.
In terms of the dependency benefit, what is the quantum? And apart from the death certificate, what else you need to provide? Good program. Thank you. I'm listening.
The dependency.
Hello.
Yes, I mean spouse 50%. Yes.
I got some of it. I'm not sure if any you.
Is he referring to survivor's benefit?
The caller may want to call again just to clarify what his question is about. He may want to expound on it a little, and of course you'll get an answer. So as I say, you may call us because you want clarification on the matter. You may have your own questions as well. You want us to go over something that was said earlier. Call us 1-800-327. You could also call from on the international line. It's 305-432-9744. Call us as well on 448-3281. You could send us a WhatsApp message on 616-1327. We go back to the telephone. Good morning. Hello, good morning. Hello.
Yes, good morning. Survivor's benefit. That's the correct terminology. Survivor's benefit.
Okay.
Yes?
All right then. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, yes. So he was referring to survivor's benefit.
Okay. Survivor's benefit is available to a spouse upon the death of the partner, and I use the term spouse because at Social Security we also recognize common law unions. So where you have been living together with another person as husband and wife for at least 3 years, you could qualify for a survivor's pension, which is 50% of what the deceased person would have qualified for. Then children of the deceased and adopted children are also recognized. Stepchildren, adopted children are also recognized, where they qualify for a quarter of the pension that the deceased person would have qualified for. With children have to be unmarried and attending school up to the age of 21. And where a child is disabled, yes, unemployed also. Thank you. Where a child is disabled, they qualify for 1/3 of the pension that would have been paid to the deceased person. So these are the survivor's benefit. And what you need to do if you are a spouse, you need to bring a marriage certificate. So you complete the form, bring a marriage certificate and a death certificate and a birth certificate of both yourself and the deceased person. And if it's in the case of children, then you bring the child's birth certificate, and then some document from the school stating that the child is attending school. And where the child is invalid, we would need to get a document from a doctor indicating whatever it is that the child is suffering from that makes the child be considered as an invalid child.
Let me ask though, can all this
to add,
go ahead,
just to add,
James, go ahead.
in terms of although we mentioned that the children has to be under the age of 21, unmarried, unemployed, and at school, in the case of invalid children, it doesn't matter the child's age, because you may have a 40-year-old who is invalid and fully dependent on the parents. So for invalid children, it doesn't matter their age once they are deemed to be in that condition.
Let me ask though, can all this information be found online? I know you have outreach programs, and this already is an educational, component.
Yes, Ivona, we do have a website. Our website is www.dss.dm. So a lot of the information can be found on our Social Security website, as well as we also have a Facebook page where we periodically post information such as this.
So I want to, just in addition, where there is no spouse or dependent children, a dependent parent or grandparent who is above the age of 65 can also claim for the survivor's benefit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Is there still a concern as it relates to employers not paying contributions?
Yes.
Let us go there.
Yes. So, Mr. Henry,
What is the
That
status now, Mr. Henry?
Yeah, that is one of our major challenges, because the law requires that for for each person who is employed, the law stipulates that contributions must be deducted from that person's income, even prior to the receiving their salary. Right? Unfortunately, that doesn't always happen, and that, of course, is an offense under the Social Security Act. The law is very interesting, in the sense that it says that it says you may deduct but must pay, which means that if you do not, the law authorizes you to deduct, but if you do not deduct, you, the employer, become fully responsible, fully liable for paying both the employers and employees component of the contributions. Okay, so we do have the challenge where some employers are delinquent, in the sense that they either do not deduct or do deduct and don't pay it, and so forth. And of course, that's an offense under the Social Security Act. And of course, there are certain penalties that can be invoked if that person doesn't pay. So what we really urge employees to do is, if you work for an employer, periodically call the Social Security office to confirm that your contributions have been paid. If it is, when you call, we will double check. If it's not been paid, the matter will be referred to my department, which is the compliance department. We will send out officers to the employer to check their records to ensure that contributions have been paid. And even whilst we are in that situation, may I also say that the law for employers who sometimes it can be very challenging, because I've seen cases where you actually go to employers, the employer's name might be John Brown, and you go to him and say, well, I'd like to see Mr. John Brown, and he say, well, oh, he's not there. You're speaking to the very person, but he tells you that he's not there. Or they will say, well, he went to Roseau and so forth or whatnot. Let me just say that the law says that it's an offense to refuse entry to an office of the Social Security. It's an offense to obstruct him or to impede or in any way prevent him from conducting his work as a Social Security, his inspections or investigation under the Social Security Act. But the whole bottom line is that it is each employee's responsibility, and we're still talking about the matter of education again, right? My people perish for lack of knowledge, and so we really want to encourage employees: educate yourself, know what are the implications of not paying contributions are. And if when you find out that the contributions have not been, and another thing talking about that also, there is a certain part of the Social Security Act which says that an employee can be denied benefit if there is evidence that he has connived with the employer for not paying contributions. So especially, and we have this problem especially in the construction sector, where some employees tell the employer, don't take out my money for Social Security. But the sad thing is that as soon as something happened to them, they fall from a scaffold, a nail prick them, they break an arm, whatever it is, they then run to social. The same employee who was telling his employer, don't take out Social Security from you. He runs to Social Security and says, well, oh, I worked for employer John Brown and he did not take out my social. He knows
And,
very
and,
well he
and
wasn't paying.
employers adhere to this?
Some do.
Yeah, some many of them do that, you know. And but in a case like that, if he wasn't deducting, he wasn't making deduction from the employee's income, the law then holds him fully responsible for paying both his portion and the employee's portion. But if it is proven that there was connivance between the employee and employer, that employee can be denied his benefit by virtue of the fact that he was conniving with the employer in that regard. So we really want to encourage employees to, first of all, certify that the contributions have been paid and do not connive with any employer. Because I'll tell you one thing, another thing is that, well, I've been around Social Security for a long time, and there are, as Mrs. Thomas said, if you contribute for just about 10 years, you meet the threshold for qualifying for age pension, which is having paid 500 credits. And up to this year, I was looking at the records of a lady who submitted a claim for pension. And in order to qualify for pension, you need to pay 500 credits, which is equivalent to paying for 10 years. This lady had 499 credits. She was only missing one credit to qualify. One credit is just 1 week, because you get 1 credit for each week that you pay. Okay? So she had paid 499 credits. She was only missing one, and I'm sure during her history, during her work time in Dominica, I'm sure she worked for more than that period of time. But because she wasn't double checking, or because some of her employers did not pay, by their failure to pay, she was denied a benefit by just
For one credit?
Yeah, for one
Wow.
credit. So it's very important for every single living, breathing.
Couldn't an
employee-
arrangement be paid if someone, I don't know, falls by 1 credit? Can they make like a quick, I don't know, payment and get it up?
Let me give you a joke. There was one, Mrs. Lloyd was talking about employment, about self-employed persons a little earlier. There is one taxi driver came to the office a couple of years ago with a paper bag, I remember the paper bag, a brown paper bag full of money, right? So he came to the office with that, and he was saying, well, okay, I know I wasn't paying, but I want to pay, what you call it,
Retroactively.
I want to pay retroactively so that I can qualify for Social Security benefit. But there is a section in the collection of contributions regulation which places a statute of limitation as to when contributions can be paid. So if you qualify for age, if you attain the age of retirement, the law says that you cannot pay, and you don't qualify for pension, the law says that you cannot pay contributions in order to qualify. So whatever contributions you pay have to be paid prior to you submitting a claim for the benefit, or prior to you qualifying for that benefit.
And that is why it is so important, Ivona, we bring it back to the point where we are asking persons, don't wait until it is time for you to claim or you are close to pensionable age to come to Social Security to see whether your records are in order. While you're working, periodically, just come and check. You can make a phone call if you realize, okay, well, my employer is not one that has been delinquent or so on. You don't have to do it so often. But periodically check, call into the office. You can come in, we can give you a statement of your contribution history, and then if there's any lapse, anything missing, you can bring it to our attention, and we can, let's say, try to get the contributions from the employer, because you do not want to wait for later on, and sometimes the business has already closed, the employer may have died or went away, and it's now we are approaching pensionable age. At that time, it may be too late for Social Security to do anything to get these contributions for you. So it's important for you to do so while you're working. Even if you are far from pensionable age, every single contribution is important, because these are the contributions are what will enable you to claim for to receive a benefit or be entitled to a benefit at Social Security. So while you're working, make it your business to call the office, come into the office to check to ensure that your employers are making those contributions. Because yes, you may be getting a salary slip at the end of the month and it is stating that Social Security is being deducted for you, but that does not mean that those contributions reach us at the office. The only way to know is to come in and to get in touch with us so that we can tell you, yes, indeed, we are getting those contributions. Because as Mr. Henry said, there are employers out there who show, yes, they're making those deductions, but they do not pay those monies to Social Security. And that is, in fact, a form of theft. So make it your business. It is your contribution. It is your benefit. make it your business to come to Social Security to find out about your records.
I like that.
And-
Let us
and
go
just
ahead.
one second, while, please. What you said just triggered something. It's also important to find out how much they are declaring for you, right? Because there's some employers who really do pay contributions,
but,
but the amount on which the salary that they declare
Yes.
is much lower than what you actually earn or what you pay.
Yeah, I never thought
And
of
obviously, for example, an employee is, say, earning an income of $3,000, all right? And the employer comes and pays contributions on $1,000, and you check the records. Yes, the employee is paying. He has
But
paid
yes,
for
it's
you.
a
But the
reduced
question is, was he paying the correct amount? Because if you submit a claim for benefit, the benefit that you're going to be paid is going to be based on the income that has been declared, or the income.
So that reduced amount that has been paid will
Definitely.
redound to your disadvantage.
Definitely, yeah. So it's important to not just find out, but to also find out what salaries have been declared for you.
Let us look at the various ways to pay, especially in this age of technological advancements. So how can people pay? What other ways can people pay?
Okay, so we have a number of ways that persons can pay their contributions. I just want to highlight the contribution payments are due by the 14th of every month. So, for example, contributions for the month of July were due by the 14th of August 2025, except where the 14th falls on a weekend or public holiday, it will be the next business day. And persons can come into the office to make their contribution payments in cash. They can use their debit cards to pay, so we accept card payments. You can pay by bank transfer. Social Security is also listed on the mobile banking platform. So if you have mobile banking with National Bank, you can pay us. You just look on the merchants, look for Dominica Social Security, and you can make your payment online. You can do so by bank transfer. You can do so in cash. You can come into the office in person to do that. You can use your card. And we also have compliance officers on the field who receive payments from employers. So no one has to wait until the last day, the deadline, to come into Social Security and follow a long line to make their contribution payments. We have a whole various methods that you can utilize to keep your contribution payments current, to pay on time, to avoid the long lines, and to have your records in order up to date.
Before we end though, let us quickly look at the student loan program. What is the status of this program at this time?
Okay, so the student loans program actually, I'd like to say now it's growing. I had an encouraging session this week where we had quite a few new applications. I was really pleased about
Did you
that.
get the feel that a lot of people did not know about it as well?
Somehow, I guess people are more the advertisements and where Mrs. Lloyd and Mr. Etienne have been talking about it. Is generating quite a bit of interest. And so yesterday we dealt with quite a few applications, and I was really pleased about that because it means that especially young persons, I mean at any age you can choose to apply for a student loan, but more persons are accessing those loans now, and it's really pleasing because it's an investment for the Dominica Social Security, but it's also an investment aimed at growing our country's human resource base. And especially part of my pleasure was the fact that 80% of the applicants were for persons going to do programs at the University of the West Indies, and I'm sure that these people are going to come back to contribute to the development of Dominica. So that part really pleased me. Yes, I'm an alumni of the University of the West Indies. Yes, biased? No, not being biased, because we are sure that these people return to help in the development of Dominica. And so, yes, people still come, and we want to remind the persons over there that at the Dominica Social Security, our rates are lower, and there's no processing fee. So our processes are in fact shorter too. So you come, and there's no limit. Once you can afford to pay a loan, you can qualify for the loan. And so we encourage persons to inquire from the Dominica Social Security about our student loan option. Yes, we are still giving student loans, and we welcome persons to come because it's an investment which will help to supplement the contributions that we receive to help us pay the benefits that we pay. But it's also an investment into our youth, into our human resource base, where we help to develop persons when they access the student loans from the Dominica Social Security. No processing fee, low interest rates, and a very easy, seamless, easy process.
Very seamless.
Yes.
All right. Let us begin to end the discussion. I'm learning a lot whenever you all come on. It really is something that I look forward to, a program that I really look forward to learn more about the social security. People normally have a lot of questions as well. Sometimes we get a lot of questions on WhatsApp, and people call for clarification of certain things. So I just want to say this to commend the Dominica Social Security as well, for continuing to see this initiative as very important, this educational drive that you always embark on, apart from the other things that you do to educate the people. They can call Dominica Social Security, get information, you have information online, you have outreach programs, you go to schools, very, very important.
Yes,
But
and then we go anywhere. Mr. Etienne and Mrs. Lloyd especially, mostly, and sometimes Mr. Henry will go anywhere. You can also invite us to come to speak to your target group. So if you're a church, you are a youth group, a social group, an employer, you can invite us to come to educate your group members, your staff, about the social security program, and we always welcome those opportunities.
Okay, yeah. So, Kamasha, as we end, closing remarks from you. We'll hear from Mr. Henry, and then we'll end with the Executive Director.
Yes, Ivona. So all the myths that you hear out there about social security, that it is for all people, that I don't need social security, I can save on my own. Some persons may say I'm self-employed, so I don't need social security. And one of the most popular ones is that people dying young, I won't live to enjoy my social security benefits. Every day at Social Security, Ivona, we have proof that we can debunk those myths. Because more and more we see situations where people are living longer once they start receiving their pension from Social Security. For the self-employed persons or for the average persons, while yes, it is important to save your money, but you need to supplement it by having Social Security as one of your main backups to earning income when you are later down in life, because savings will finish. And as Mrs. Thomas indicated, the bank will put the stamp cancelled on your book when you have exhausted your funds at the banks. With Social Security, it is not so. Once you start paying your benefits, we have to pay it to you for life. So for as long as you're entitled to receive that benefit, Social Security is there to pay that benefit to you. And for the young persons who may say that Social Security seems like a distant thing, that they may not live long enough, Social Security is here for you for every stage of your life. From the cradle to the grave, as we say. As a young person, while you're working and earning, you may get injured on the job, sickness may befall you, anything can happen to you. So don't look at it as something that you may not live long enough to enjoy, that it's 60 or 65 may seem too far away. But Social Security, we have a whole range of benefits that we spoke about, short-term, long-term, and employment injury related, that you can benefit from. But the important thing is for you to be registered, and not only registered, but registered and paying the contributions to the Social Security program, because it is by paying those contributions that will enable you to be able to receive those benefits when certain risks or certain things happen to you.
You really understand your assignments, Commercial Lloyd. I just have to say that. Mr. Henry?
Yes.
That's right, and she has said all what I wanted to say. Okay, but again, when I started with a scripture, Hosea 4:6, my people perish for lack of knowledge, right? And again, I just want to re-emphasize in closing the importance of ensuring that people educate themselves, that people know. Because when you don't know, that's when you lose out. I was working at our Portsmouth office just this week on Tuesday, and a lady came in. I won't be too specific, but that lady had satisfied the condition for qualifying for. She was a self-employed person, and she unfortunately assumed that it's only age pension she was paying for. Okay, and that lady qualified for benefit. She was sick for probably about a month thereabout. And she failed to claim because she wasn't aware that she qualified for sickness benefit. You know what I mean? So educate yourself, people. Know what's going on. I just want to close with this last one. 1 Timothy 5:8, it says, "But if any provide not for his own, and especially for those of his own household, he has denied the faith and is worse than an infidel." In other words, if a person doesn't take care of himself, provide for himself, and provide for his own household, he has denied what God espouses or what God wants, and is worse than an infidel, is worse than an unbeliever. So that is saying that every single living, breathing human being in Dominica who is working, he has a responsibility to provide for himself. Make provisions in case he falls sick and so forth, that he can be taken care of. In case he's too old to work, that he can be provided for. And to also provide for those of his own household, those who depend on him. And so that's what I want to leave for us in Dominica. God bless you, Dominica.
Thank you. Director?
Okay. Yes, I just want to thank Mrs. Lloyd and Mr. Henry for their contributions to the program. And Mrs. Lloyd is really going into, into the post. And just to encourage again, and today my concern, my greatest concern is with the self-employed persons. And to encourage all self-employed persons. Sometimes it just means moving away from that drink that you think you have to make every Friday afternoon with your friends, and take that money and go and pay to Social Security for yourself. It's an investment in yourself. So I really want to send out a call to self-employed persons to take the program seriously and come make provision for yourself and your family, because we really don't know. According to the jingle we have, life and death are so unpredictable. Don't take risk you can't afford to gamble. So don't stop gambling with your life. Come and pay your contributions to Social Security. Thank you, Ivona.
Thank you. And remember, we can plan a program with testimonials and hear more from the people.
Of course, Ivona. So we'll be back next month, God willing.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you for having us again.
Thank you.
Secure yourself, secure your family. Register with Social Security. Make sure your employers pay, 'cause